You ever seen a boxer before the fight? I mean really watched him, not when he walks into the ring. I'm talking about before, when he's alone in the locker room, eyes closed, head bowed, breathing steady. He ain't throwing punches yet. He's not even laced up all the way, but he's in conversation. Not with his trainer, not with his team, but with something deeper, something higher. That's what prayer looks like. See, the fight you're about to step into isn't always physical. Sometimes it's the job you hate. Sometimes it's the fear of being alone. Sometimes it's that quiet voice in your head that says you're not enough. That voice gets louder when you don't talk to God. We've been trained to react first. Get the email, reply quick, feel pressure, hustle harder. Somebody says something slick, fire back. We panic, we scramble, we post, we pace. But what if the first step wasn't motion? What if it was stillness? When you start with prayer, you trade noise for clarity. You shift from emotion to intention. You move from why is this happening to me to what are you trying to teach me through this? I remember a moment years ago, one of those times when everything in my world felt like it was breaking at once. I had doors slamming in my face that I thought were wide open. I was frustrated, tired. And in that moment, I did the only thing I hadn't done yet. I got quiet. I turned off the noise, sat still, talked to God. Not in some fancy, perfect prayer, just real, raw, honest, and what I heard wasn't a solution. It wasn't an immediate fix, but I felt a peace that didn't match my situation, a strength that didn't come from me. Prayer doesn't always change the storm, but it changes you in the storm. So I learned something that day, something I carry with me on every set, every stage, every challenge. Don't start with panic, start with prayer. It realigns your perspective, reminds you who you are. And more importantly, who's walking with you before the fear starts talking. Talk to God before the anxiety writes the script. Talk to God, because when you've had that conversation, when you've centered yourself in something eternal, the world can shake and you can still stand. That's not magic. That's presence. That's preparation. That's power. And you only find that on your knees. Everybody wants God to speak like he's Morgan Freeman in a Hollywood movie. Deep voice, clear instruction, booming from the clouds. We want the heavens to crack open and spell it out. Take the job. Leave the relationship. Move to that city. Start the business. We want the burning bush, the handwriting on the wall, the unmistakable cinematic signal. But that's not always how God moves. See, God doesn't always yell. Sometimes he gets real quiet. And that silence, it makes you uncomfortable. You start wondering, did I do something wrong? Why isn't he answering? Why does it feel like he's gone? But let me tell you something I learned the hard way. God's silence doesn't mean he's absent. Sometimes the silence is the answer. Sometimes he's already given you the direction. You just didn't like it. Sometimes he's watching to see if you trust him enough to move even when it's not spelled out in neon lights. And then there are moments you don't expect. When God doesn't whisper at all, he pushes. He removes the comfort, shakes the foundation, closes the door you were leaning on so hard you thought it was yours for life. That job you were proud of, gone. That plan you wrote out in ink, canceled. That person you thought you couldn't live without, walked away, and you're left stunned, confused, asking, why now? But sometimes that shove is the only thing that gets you moving, because the truth is, a lot of us pray for growth, but we stay planted in fear. We ask for purpose, but we won't leave what's familiar. We beg for direction, but we ignore the detour signs. So God, being who he is, steps in. He shakes the tree, not to destroy you, but to reposition you. That push might not feel holy in the moment. It feels like loss, like heartbreak, like betrayal, but months, sometimes years, down the road you look back and realize, if he didn't push me, I never would have moved. I never would have discovered what I was really made of. I never would have walked into the version of myself I was born to become. God is not just the still, small voice. He's the wind that moves mountains. He's the disruption you didn't ask for but desperately needed. He's the hand on your back when you're frozen by fear, whispering, go, I've got you. You won't always get a blueprint. You won't always hear a voice. But trust me, if you're listening, if your spirit is tuned in, you'll feel that push. And when you do, don't fight it. Lean in, because that push, that's purpose in motion. People have this idea that courage always comes with noise. With fanfare, with shouting from the rooftops and pounding on your chest. They think boldness means being the loudest in the room, the most visible, the one with the spotlight, the one who looks fearless from the outside. But let me tell you the truth, real courage isn't loud, it's not flashy, it's not even pretty most days. Courage is quiet, it's obedient, it's that still, stubborn yes to God when everything in your life is screaming no. It's waking up on a Tuesday when nothing's going right, when the bills are piling, when the door slammed yesterday, and your confidence is cracked. But you still get up, still put your shoes on, still move toward the thing He told you to do. That's courage. Courage is saying, God, I don't see how this ends, but I trust you enough to take the next step anyway. It's not needing the applause. It's not needing people to understand. It's not asking for a guarantee before you go. Because obedience doesn't always make sense, God will call you to leave what's safe and step into the unknown. He'll ask you to build something without the blueprint, to love someone who hurt you, to forgive before the apology comes, to speak when your voice is shaking, and to stay silent when your pride wants to shout. See, obedience will have you looking crazy to the world. People will say, you're really doing that in this economy, with your background, with your past. But they didn't hear the call. They weren't there when you cried out in the dark and God whispered back, go. Sometimes courage is just staying. Sometimes it's walking away. Sometimes it's admitting you're scared and moving anyway. I remember standing at a crossroads in my life. Every voice around me had an opinion. You should do this. Don't do that. That's risky. That's not smart. And I almost listened. I almost let their fear become my blueprint. But something in me knew I didn't answer to them. I answered to God, so I obeyed, not because I had it all figured out, not because I felt brave, but because I refused to disobey the call I prayed so hard to receive. That's courage. It's not about how strong you feel. It's about how deeply you trust. It's the kind of strength that doesn't need to announce itself. It just shows up, quiet, steady, unshaken. Because when you're moving in obedience, when you know God told you to go, to stay, to speak, to build, you don't need the world's validation. You already got the only permission that matters. We live in a world that treats failure like a finish line. Like that's it. You messed up, you blew it, game over. But let me tell you something I've learned. Something life taught me the hard way. Failure is not final. It's directional. It's a detour, not a dead end. See, some of the greatest things that ever happened to me didn't feel like blessings when they showed up. They felt like rejection, like closed doors, like not this time. I've had roles I didn't get, relationships that didn't work out, opportunities that slipped right through my fingers. I've been passed over, counted out, misunderstood, doubted. And not just by strangers, by people who knew me, people who loved me, and for a while I took that failure personally. I wore it like a weight. Like it said something about who I was, but that's the lie. Failure doesn't define you. It refines you. It strips away the ego. It reveals your resilience. It asks you, do you want this because it's easy, or because it's yours? See, the detour teaches what the straight road never could. You learn things when it doesn't work out. You grow in the silence. You get stronger in the setback. You get wiser in the reroute. And God, He's not panicked by your failure. He doesn't revise your worth when you miss a step. He doesn't cancel your calling when you fall short. You think you shocked the one who created you. Come on. God doesn't need perfect. He needs available. He needs willing. He needs someone who can fail and still say, use me anyway. Some of y'all think you've missed your moment. That it's too late. That because it didn't happen the way you thought it would, it'll never happen. Let me tell you something. You can't miss what God has marked for you. You can't outrun a purpose that was written before you were born. The detour might delay it. The setback might reroute it. But if you keep walking, if you keep trusting, if you don't let shame make you sit down, He'll get you where you're supposed to go. Failure isn't proof that God's not with you. Sometimes it's proof that he's building you. So let the world call it a loss. Let them count you out. You just make sure you don't count yourself out. Because that detour, that painful, confusing, heartbreaking left turn, that just might be the exact road that leads you to who you were always meant to be. There comes a moment in every life, sometimes more than once, where you're standing on the edge of something, a decision, a calling, a risk, and everything in you is trembling because the next step isn't clear. There's no map, no sign in the sky, just that feeling in your chest, that stir in your spirit that says there's more. That's the moment. That's where boldness is born, but you can't move bold if you haven't talked to God first. See, the boldness I'm talking about is an ego. It's not arrogance. It's not hype. It's not about being unafraid. It's about knowing who's walking with you. It's about stepping into the fire not because you're sure you won't get burned, but because you trust that the fire won't consume you. That kind of confidence don't come from motivational quotes or podcasts or applause. It comes from intimacy. It comes from conversation, from time in the quiet, time in the Word, time in the presence of the one who sees further than you, knows deeper than you, and loves stronger than you even know how to receive. Talk to God, not just when it's falling apart. Talk to Him when things are good, when you're unsure, when you're trying to figure out if that dream is yours or His. Ask Him, is this the door I'm supposed to walk through? Is this the voice I should listen to? Is this move mine to make, or yours to reveal? Because when you talk to God, really talk to Him, you don't just get answers. You get peace, you get posture, you get perspective. You stop chasing validation from the world and start walking in authority from the Word. And when you have that, you move different. You move bold. Not loud, not reckless, not performative, but bold. You speak when others whisper. You stand when others shrink. You walk away when others beg to stay. You build what's never been built. You believe what's never been seen. You take steps that don't make sense to man, but are in perfect alignment with heaven. You'll lose some people on the way. You'll scare some folks who only know how to live small. You'll be misunderstood, underestimated, maybe even mocked. But you won't fold, because your direction didn't come from them. It came from God, so don't wait for every detail. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait for applause or backup or guarantees. If God said move, move. If He said speak, speak. If He said stay, stay. That's what boldness looks like, obedient, rooted, unshaken. You don't need the whole path. You just need enough light for the next step. And if God gave you that, take it, talk to God, then move bold. So here we are. You've heard the words, you've felt the weight. But the question now is not, did it sound good? The question is, what are you going to do with it? Because inspiration without action is just noise. And I didn't come here tonight to make noise. I came here to shake something loose in you, to stir something that's been sleeping, to remind you who you are. And who sent you. This world is loud. It will try to distract you, define you, detour you. But if you stay grounded, if you start your days not with panic, but with prayer, if you trust that God's silence is not absence, it's preparation, if you move with obedience instead of applause, if you treat every failure as a setup, not a shutdown, then listen to me, you will walk in power, you will move in purpose, you will live bold, not because you have all the answers, but because you've talked to the one who does. So tonight, when the lights go down and the noise fades, I want you to get quiet. I want you to talk to God, and then when He speaks, through peace, through a push, through a closed door or an open one, I want you to move. Not in fear, not in doubt, but bold, because this life, it's not a rehearsal. And you were born for something greater. So don't just leave here inspired. Leave here activated, talk to God, move bold, and never look back.